Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health, one topic at a time. So I've got a product review for you guys today, and it is the N95 duckbill respirator by BNX. So just keep watching. So before I even get into review of the BNX products, I just want to say thank you to the kind folks at BNX. They actually reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in taking a look at their products and maybe doing a review. They sent me 4 different products. Today's video is going to be the subject mostly of one. I'm going to explain why I chose that one and just briefly introduce the other products that they sent me. They are all N95s. Now in today's video, I'm going to be doing a full review on the duckbill respirator. So they sent me, like I said, 4 different products. Actually 3 different styles. One of them is just a different color of the same style. But this one is the duckbill respirator, so it's a classic N95, and I'm going to be talking mostly about this one. Now I will just briefly introduce to you the other ones that they sent me. They also have the BNX. This is an N95 that's, I think it's called a fish design. What this is actually a KF94 that has been outfitted with head straps instead of the ear loops in a classic KF94, so you can see here. Yeah, so that's the fish style N95. And then finally they sent me the same model, but in both black and white. So this makes a total of 4 items. These are both N95s. Now I only opened the black one. I'm going to show it to you really quick here. So what this one was on closer inspection, similar to the fish style being a KF94 with a head strap, this is actually a KN95, so the Chinese style with a head strap. Now all their products are made here in the United States, so these are NIOSH approved N95s. Everything that I've got here is NIOSH approved N95. The design, in fact, is a retrofitted KN95. It's been outfitted with a head strap. One thing I will say just briefly, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about this particular one, but it's nicely outfitted in that the 2 head straps are actually different lengths. And I think that I haven't seen that really in any N95. Maybe I have. I'd have to look back. I haven't really paid attention to it. But in this one, it really stuck out at me because, you know, one head strap has to come way up high around the head, and the other one's meant really to be way down low under the occipital lobe, kind of where the head meets the neck. And that doesn't really require a whole lot of length, and very often it leaves a lot of slack. So I like that they designed it that way. In short, I'm just going to make a quick statement about why I'm choosing not to review either the KF94 retrofitted with a head strap that became an N95 or this one, and that is that in the past and really still through today, I don't recommend a KF94 or a KN95 because we have so many N95s available. So I know the next statement is going to be, but this in fact is an N95. In my experience, just because of the design, being that this is a KN95 shape, even though it's an N95, I find it has one inherent problem. And this came up when I reviewed a while back, I think the Demitech respirator. At the time, there was almost nothing available in N95s. I gave it a pretty favorable review at the time, but since other things are now available, for me, a KN95 shape is kind of fallen out of favor. And the reason is that it comes folded like this. They all do. This is just how they're made. And a lot of people, myself included, sometimes have trouble getting this sharply bent nose piece now, which is it's really bent to a point here. Getting that to sort of flatten out, you got to try to iron that bend out with your fingers so that then you can get it to stick down and shape in more of a slow, more of a gradual roundedness at the bridge of your nose. And what a lot of people found is just that little point just seems to stay there and they get some leakage. And I have found with some models more than others, but when I gave this a try, I had that problem. Now that's really more your anatomy, but I just think it's an inherent issue in the shape. That's nothing against BNX's product. This is actually the medium of all of these is an excellent medium, and I'm going to talk about that when I review the duckbill in just a moment. So I can't say enough good things about the actual medium that they're using, but I just think that that is just an inherent flaw when you take a KN95 and make an N95 out of it. For those of you who do like that shape and design, I would recommend that you give this a try. I think if you like the Demitech, or I think the Indiana face mask company, I reviewed a similar product. Again, that was back when we didn't have other choices like the duckbills and the Ready Mask and things like that. But if you do like those designs, I think you will really like this one. This is absolutely a superior medium. And so let me get on to the duckbill respirator because it's the same medium and I'm going to talk about it then. All right, so here's the BNX duckbill respirator. It looks just like most duckbills I've reviewed. One difference I would point out is that the straps are already separated. I know that in the ACI, which I really like, and I think in the Gerson as well, which I also really like, the straps are kind of all fused together, and you can either peel them apart, or sometimes I actually just use them as one strap at the top of my head. These are already separate. These sell on the Amazon store. You have to go to the Accumed's Amazon store, and they sell for $29.99 for a pack of 20. Now, the kind people at Accumed that I already mentioned before have given us a 10% off code. I'm going to put that here. It's not your typical like Sandy 10 or Sandy 20. It's kind of a complicated code. So I'm going to put it down here. And I'm just going to mention that when you're on Amazon, I don't know about you guys, but I have trouble remembering if I have a coupon code. Like Amazon is just like a smooth, quick transaction that is usually over. And then I go, oh, God, I had a coupon. So you've got to remember to use that code before you complete the checkout of the Amazon process. So with 10% off, these come to $26.99 for a pack of 20, and that brings them to about $1.35 per item. Now, that's not quite competitive with the ACI, and the Gersons are hovering around $1 typically, and sometimes Armbrust even puts them on sale. But I will say that there's a lot to be said about the quality of this medium here, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. And you can also purchase these on the Accumed website, and just in case somebody feels more comfortable doing that, I am going to put that coupon code here as well. I'm also going to put both coupon codes with links down in the description box. Now, my links for these kinds of things are not affiliate links, guys. I don't make any commissions off of this. I don't want any bias that commissions can create, so I just leverage any influence I have to try to bring a savings to my viewers. That said, I don't know why you would want to shop for this on the Accumed website, because not only is it not as smooth as something like Amazon, and by the way, Amazon, these have Prime delivery, so you don't pay anything for the delivery, but on the Accumed website, they are $34.99 for a pack of 20, and so even with the 10% off, it's substantially more expensive than if you were to buy them on Amazon. And since you are buying them through the retailer store, you know you have a legitimate product. Please do make sure that if you buy these on Amazon, that you are buying them through the Accumed store. Make sure that this isn't some third-party seller. Now, all of their N95s, be it the ones that are the style of the KN95 with a head strap, or the KF94 with a head strap, or these duckbills, they're all made in the United States. They are all latex free. People have asked me that about various masks and respirators that I've reviewed, and I think it's really nice when a company just happens to throw that out there. So they all say latex free. They have been tested by third-party labs. First of all, they're all NIOSH approved, so that means they have stood up to the scrutiny of the U.S. government, and they have all passed that test. So they are NIOSH approved N95s, and you can find that on the CDC website. In addition to that, they have independent testing by Nelson Labs, and you can see that all plainly on their website and also on the Amazon description page. So when you look over on Amazon, when you can toggle back and forth between pictures, one of the pictures is a chart of all the different testing that was done by Nelson Labs. In every single one of the tests, the particle filtration rate in these, which is supposed to be at least 95% of small particles, so no more than 5% coming through, they were all in excess of 99 on the duckbill, and I thought that was just really impressive. The N95 designation is all about the medium, guys, and I keep talking about this. That's all about the medium. That's all about, putting this in between two different places where air is blown through, and you can see how much in the way of small particles gets across. Once you put it on a face, there's the added variable of how it fits and whether it is sealed down. And so it's all about making sure that everything goes through the mask and not around the mask. Any room for leak, because this is so much resistance here, meaning that it's meant to filter small particles. It's a high resistance fabric, if you will. So any bit of leak is going to be the path of least resistance, any tiny little gap, and that's going to be where the air goes through if it's allowed. So I tend to put my money on the NIOSH testing and an independent testing, like with the labs, like for example, Nelson Labs. So this one in excess of 99% in every category. This also is a 6-layer mask. It's mostly polypropylene. I believe 4 or 5 out of those 6 layers are polypropylene, both melt blown and spun bound and supercharged. So this, I think you can tell, now the trade-off is that it's not maybe as lightweight as something like the ACI that I said I've kind of been using out and around. This is a little more, tiny bit more heft to it. It's not like oppressive or anything, but it definitely has a little more substance to it. It's not quite as floppy, for example. You can see how this piece, like this layer, right? It's got a little more structure to it. So let me go ahead and put it on for you. And I'm just gonna, for those of you who haven't seen me review a duckbill style, I absolutely love duckbill style N95s. I like that they kind of stay off the face, but yet they are so well sealed because they come down around the chin. Now they do actually, if you look at these, one head strap is a little looser than the other. Again, I think like really a pretty brilliant design. So now that does mean you kind of have to keep track when you're putting them on, but the long one is going to go up here. And as I've said before, I try to get that as high as I can, certainly not so high that it's going to slide this way. But I think the difference between an ear loop and a head strap is why an N95 doesn't allow for really any leak hardly at all, as opposed to like a KF94, a KN95, because of the ear loop design allows for up to 10 or 11% leak, which is that difference is huge, and I think it really overshadows how much similar the mediums might be, but it really tells you about how important the fit is. So with this one, you are going to have to look at that. Now I try to put that head strap up nice and high. So when I put on a duckbill respirator, they come out of the package really flat. The first thing that I do is sort of open this, separate it, and then I kind of make a little bit of a curve there. Okay, nothing that's supposed to really contour to my nose yet, but I make a little bit of a curve so that I can now take both the straps and catch the bottom border under my chin, and the top border is sort of all ready for me. See, it's kind of already made a gap. It's not trying to pull on my nose because I've made that roundedness there. First thing I do is make sure I've got the whole thing out. Sometimes I find that this piece is folded in the process of putting it on, so I make sure it's flat all the way around because that's what's going to help me make the seal. Now in this case, you'll be able to feel, it's a little bit of work. So one of these head straps, you'll notice, is just much tighter than the other. The one that's looser is meant to go all the way up around the head. The one that's tighter is because it's meant to be down around the neck. I have my clip that always gives me a good place. This feels, pretty high on my head. This is really where I like it. It's that upward pull that makes for a very good seal. And again, that's what separates this from something with ear loops. That upward tug makes for an excellent seal. So you don't only have any pull in the backwards direction, but it's also going up. And then you'll notice that this strap has very little slack on it. Like some of these are just, there's so much slack. I can't remember which model I reviewed a while back where I actually showed that I crossed them because there was just so much slack on the bottom that it just wasn't doing anything. I could have cut it off and it would have been the same. So I like this. It does stay snug way up where it's supposed to, up high, just where that curve of the occipital lobe is coming in where your head meets your neck. Okay, so the next thing to do is to conform the nose piece. This is a nice long nose piece. I say it's very similar to the ACI. I'm going to look in a moment. It's definitely longer than the Gerson. Despite the fact that this has, like I said, some heft to it, it's not quite as like fluttery as like the ACI, for lack of a better word. It doesn't feel as light. But because it's a duckbill design, it still is off my face, and I don't feel like this thing is hot. Now, anything, if I'm going to wear it outside, it's 90 degrees outside or something, I think, there's really not a mask around that you're not going to feel it a little bit if you want good filtration. But I do find this surprisingly comfortable given its heft, if that makes any sense. One other thing that really sticks out at me is this bottom border. I think it's maybe a little wider than most bottom borders are. It's also pretty sturdy, and I think that really gives you something to work with. And just like you saw, I checked to see whether it folded in and if I got to take it out. I have that definitely happen with the ACI. Not that I mind it, and I have it happen some with the Gerson. With this one, I don't think it's really happened, and I just think it's just maybe partly that less flimsy or sturdier build. Again, the trade-off is maybe this a little warmer, a little heavier, but this bottom border always comes out flat, so when I first put it on, like I just showed you, I have a seal at the bottom already. All right, I had to run off camera there for a moment. I forgot my safety glasses. They have a few smudges on them like usual. Again, I always make sure that when I put a pair of safety glasses on, there's a tendency, if you're not careful, to slide them under the strap. You don't want to do that because you don't want to disrupt this fit. All right, so nope, so far just the smudges, no fogging. Perfect. All right, let me have a little sidebar here about fogging because there's been a question that's come up in some comments in the Facebook group about whether fogging is truly an indication of leak. So I think what people are using sort of as the rule of thumb is if the fogging is at the end of the exhale. I'm going to respectfully caution that that might be true. I think it's kind of hard for me to know the end of my exhale. Like I don't really pay that close attention. I think the better indication is whether there's a stark contrast in temperature, because the temperature all inside this mask when I exhale is very warm and very humid. Obviously my exhalant is warm and humid. And if, like, let's say I'm going out into the cold suddenly and then I get some fogging where I didn't have it a moment ago when I was inside, then there's no reason to think that I suddenly started leaking when I went outside. I guess I'm just trying to say that temperature is more the key. It's not that your fogging couldn't be a sign that it's just a temperature differential and it's normal and it's not leaking. But I wouldn't want to just rest assured it's not leaking because I don't see it at the end. I think since breathing is so cyclical, it's really hard to know whether it's the end of your exhale when you're just not thinking about it. And when you are thinking about it, I think you tend to slow your breathing down and that might change the pattern a little bit. So I do think that anytime you see fog, it needs to be thoroughly investigated. And I think it can be more easily dismissed if you're moving into a cold environment, just that temperature change. So how do I like this one? I do like it a lot. I have found myself reaching for these a fair amount, and this is one that I have like in my car right now for I run in and do quick errands, and so that brings up another question, which how many wears can I get out of this? I never know the answer to that question, but I will say on the continuum, we've talked about where some masks like the ACI, which I really like, it's very light, and I've mentioned it now a few times how lightweight it is, almost kind of flimsy. The trade-off with that one is, like I've said before, I don't see that I get quite as many wears. I think that for whatever reason, after 2, maybe 3 times tops that I've had to take it off and put it back on in rapid succession, it just doesn't, it seems to start leaking. And I think I must stretch something or whatever. It's just not, you know, quite that thick, sturdy fabric. On the other hand, it's a super comfortable mask and the price point is superb. So I'm keeping it. And I think, like I've said many times before, you need a mask wardrobe. Just like you don't have one pair of shoes for everything, same thing with masks. I can't think of one mask that's going to work best for everything. So with this one, I would say that it is a more sturdy, like I said, it's got a little more heft to it, a little more form. It doesn't like flop around or fold. If I'm just holding it in one place, it seems to maintain its shape. The trade-off with that is it is maybe a little bit warmer, maybe a little bit heavier. On the other hand, I do seem to get really several wears out of this. I think I pretty much throw these out before they start leaking because there's just after a certain number of wears, I just don't think it's prudent to wear them anymore. Or maybe I've worn it a few times just like to run in somewhere, quick errands, drop off something at UPS and get back to the car and then run in somewhere else. And at some point, ultimately, I will end up wearing it in an environment that I think is dirty and I don't want to wear it again. So I'll throw it out. I haven't found that one of these really got flimsy or started to leak on me. So, you know, the added price point, another like 30% over something like the ACI. If you're looking for something that has those features and is going to give you a little more reuse, I think this is a good option. I also really like the design of the head straps, being that the one that's meant to go down around the neck. Yes, it's a little more work in putting it on. You have to kind of separate out the two, feel them, or when you're putting it on, you maybe, you know, could put your finger in between so you know which one is on top. One way or another, you have to find a way to distinguish between these two once it's on your head. But I think that's worth it because I think that this one, especially the lower strap, is not usually built in a way that it's really doing anything. And in this case, it actually does part of the job. And it is actually giving you some pull in an opposite direction from the other strap. And I think that really contributes to the superb fit of this duckbill. Now, I just want to address the noseband because I really do like the noseband in this BNX respirator. So I've got here both the Gerson and the ACI. So those of you who have seen my reviews on the ACI know that I love this noseband. It's like on the outside of the mask. You can see exactly where it goes, and it's just, it's kind of tall. You know, it's a lot taller. It's not as thin as most nosebands, and it comes out really pretty far to the periphery, and it just can take the most subtle of bending and almost like you could curve it if you've got like a wider bridge of your nose. I really do like this nose piece. With the BNX noseband, I would say that it's also got that height to it. I'm going to see if the camera will focus in there. See, it's between those two perforated lines, and it really does take up all the space in between there. So it's not just like a little tiny piece of aluminum threaded through there. It really takes up all that space between those two perforated lines. So it's a nice fat noseband. Similar to the ACI, and I'm just going to compare them for length. So here's the ACI and here's the BNX, and you can see the ACI. Yeah, no, they're actually about the same. They're the same. So I've got to hand it to the people at BNX. I didn't think there was another noseband that competed with the ACIs, but this one definitely does. I guess I still like that this one is on the outside and it has that kind of plasticky feel, but kudos to anybody that makes a noseband that goes so far out that you can get it to curve, like it doesn't stop right here where you're done contouring it to your nose, because that usually leaves a gap right here, especially for those of us with deep set eyes. So I think these are both really nice choices for people who have deep set eyes. This one probably lasts you a couple more wears. It's a little bit warmer. This one is cooler. It's a little flimsier, as you can see. It doesn't have quite the structure that the BNX does. But then again, this one's a little bit cheaper. So I really find a place for both of them. As far as the Gerson, this is another one where it's a little more sturdy too. It's probably in between the two. It's definitely lighter than the BNX, but it's not quite as light as the ACI. The Gerson doesn't have quite as long a nose piece. It's also a little thinner piece of whatever's under there, aluminum. So I'm just going to try to give you a sense of the comparison here. I'd say that the Gerson's noseband is about a ½ inch less in length across than either the ACI or the BNX. I think the BNX has a really nice sweet spot, a more sturdy mask that's going to give you a little more wear out of it, maybe a few more wears in terms of taking off, putting back on. That all kind of distorts the shape and stretches on things and pulls on things. And I have found that I can definitely rewear this with still maintaining a good fit each time. It's got these nice head straps that allow for a more contoured fit, especially underneath. I think the strap under the bottom has been largely ignored with any of the N95s that I've reviewed in the past. Trade-off is this one's a little warmer, a little heftier, but very safe, and at 99 plus particle filtration by Nelson Labs, I think this one's a really nice option. So yeah, I would encourage you guys, if you want to try this, I would say go to the Amazon store, make sure to get the code, find a place to put the code in the Amazon store so that you get your 10% off. It's Amazon Prime, so I'm pretty sure the delivery will be nice and quick. And for anybody who decides to try it, please let us know how you like it. Put something down in the comments section, because I think that's always super helpful to other people who come along and watch these videos. And again, I want to thank the folks at BNX who were kind and generous enough to send me some of these products for review. I've really enjoyed doing it. I'm enjoying this product a lot, and I hope you guys will give it a try. Let me know if this was helpful, and until next time, be well. Bye-bye.